If you're having a faculty meeting or a district central office meeting and you've got a ton of staff there and you're going over things that you could accomplish in an email, that's not a good use of time. Those kind of meetings should be very selective and very important. Can't miss because people don't want to miss it because it's so valuable. It's going to happen there. If you've got tons of meetings, we always feel together and they feel it's a waste of time. That's when you want to step back and say to the district, look at how you're using time. Every second's valuable.
Have you been involved with districts that the school schedule is really run around the specialists, the PE teacher, the music teacher, or when they're split between different schools? So one school has to have the music in the morning instead of the afternoon. Have you dealt with any of that?
Some. Again, I'm trying my own district where these issues come up. Yes, and it's a matter of being creative and saying, well, why does it have to be that way? And is it a matter of, do you have one person that you're split between two schools, or could you possibly get two separate people, or could you shift other schedules? So there's no one right answer, but my question to that group would be to keep asking questions. The whole notion of root cause analysis. Okay, why is it structured that way? Well, these people can only come in. Well, why can they only come in? And to keep asking those whys to get at the issues. Mark?
Can I tell a story real quick?
Of course. I love your stories. Are there frogs involved?
No. But it could be.
Yeah.
As you probably figured out, Lauren is very well read, very intelligent, and knows her research really well. And the short time that I've known her, I've never known her to not have words at the tip of her tongue. I mean, she's right there and ready. And we were recently on a school visit in a district in Michigan and talking about school schedules. And it was a SIG school, one of our persistently lowest achieving. And the school was lamenting the fact that they were having a hard time getting their heads wrapped around increased learning time. And so we were coming up with all kinds of suggestions, and their suggestion was to have an early hour. So kids would come from 7 to 7:30. And they already had an attendance problem. Kids weren't coming on time at 8 anyway. So Lauren was questioning them, just as like she was talking about doing now, and she said, have you ever thought about going late? And there's lots of research, and this is good for kids, and the response was athletics. Well, we can't do that because kids won't play football and they won't play basketball. And then Lauren questioned some more, getting at the root cause. And well, what's more important is academics or athletics? And the response was athletics. And that was the end of the conversation. So I don't know if it was
the hat I was wearing that day to already going further, Mark.
And I was so interested because I'm sitting there watching this conversation. Go, Lauren, go!
Thank you. Yeah, I wear different hats at different times, and I have to judge how much I can push based on what hat I'm wearing. And the hat that day was fairly limited. So anyway, to think about the structure of the time and ask those questions. If there are time limitations, to explore why. To keep asking the questions. The other part about time is look at use. Right? Not all time is equal. One of the things that we need to do in schools is to say, okay, are we just adding more seat time? Because if we're just adding more seat time, it has no value and a cost. There's lots of costs involved. Now, engaged time is different. That's money well spent. And so to look at the school day, one of the things that the strategic schools tells you to do is do an audit of the school day and really break out. And one of the things you start to look at is something like this. Here's an example of a schedule. And this would be a traditional 6-period day where all subjects are treated equally. 17% of the student's day is spent. The actual time isn't what we're looking at here. It's just distribution. Now you can switch that, keep the same length of the school day, but make these classes shorter, double up in English and math, and all of a sudden you have the students spending 25% of their day in English and math. I'm not advocating an 8-period day, I'm simply showing an example of being creative, even within the existing parameters. Everyone always says, we want to do it, we need more money, we need more time. Well, no, what if you could tweak what you're doing in the school? I mean, one of the things I've wondered about is we've got PE requirements. If you've got kids in high school who are playing sports, why are we having them do PE? It doesn't, I mean, we need to be having them do something else. And I know it's a sensitive subject, but it's one of those issues where kids are learning how to read and write, but we've got them in PE, but they're also playing sports. The whole goal is to get the healthy mind and body, right? So just an example of thinking differently about time and some of the givens that are in our school systems. So the final piece is about strategic allocation of money. Does the school budget reflect what your priorities are? How many of you all are aware of districts actually looking at their budget as a living item? I'm on the board of a charter school, and our dollars are so incredibly tight. We analyze our budget every single meeting. Now, in my other hat, I have a traditional school district where I'm in the budget. We look at it for about 2 months a year, and then it's put away. And we never look at it again and think about the priorities. Okay? So in working with the districts, get them to say, look at your budget, analyze it from the perspective of what are our priorities, and does our budget reflect our priorities? If we say we're really struggling in math and science, can I look at that and see that the district's investing more in math and science? If you can't see it, if the investment doesn't reflect what you say your priorities are, that's a red flag to step back and say, what can we do to shift our priorities, to make sure that our budget really, you put your money where your mouth is, right? Okay, and that goes for time and other issues as well. Professional development. Do any of you work with districts that have a boiler, just a generic professional development requirement, and everyone gets the same PD regardless of what they're doing? It doesn't make any sense, right? Again, professional development, you've got time that you're getting people to go in and get training. If you are not maximizing, and when you're working with districts, I would really push this. So many of the federal SIG dollars are going towards professional development, and I think a lot of it, again, this isn't on the record, right? It's not very good. And so we're spending all this money, we're spending all this time, start with the Department of Ed, you see that, right? And we're not getting anywhere. So if you've got professional development dollars, make sure they're being used well and work with your district to say, the districts in the program and say, use every dollar as if it was your last, and it's really important. And really think, how do I get the best leverage for this investment of dollars? Okay, so I want to quickly get to exercise. One of the big things you hear about is how do I get buy-in for these changes that we're talking about? Because it's really important, the ability to do it. So I want to wrap up by just talking about, as you're talking about analyzing data, when you're working with the district, and they're saying, oh, I'm going to get resistance, I can't do this. To again, be intentional about how to get buy-in to support the change, the analysis of time, and people and money, and just being, the notion of being strategic, is to analyze data to identify problems. Get the folks at the district to understand that change is required. That's the best way to get buy-in. It goes back to the whole leader action I was talking about with discipline strategy. Develop a solution that addresses a problem, okay? You need to make sure that the people who are required to make changes in their behavior understand the connection between the problem and the solution. If they're not connected, it's very hard to get buy-in or people to really invest in them. You've got to see the connection. Engage stakeholders in the change decisions. I'm not talking about getting consensus, because sometimes you just need to tell people what to do. But if there are chances to get buy-in, and again, I've got all these examples of a principal who had to do some shifting around, had big kindergarten classrooms, and I said to her, have you brought in your kindergarten teachers and had a discussion with them? Well, no. And I thought, so you've got key stakeholders, you're making a difficult decision, and you're choosing not to bring in the stakeholders and give them some say where they could have some influence? The principal was setting herself up for a rebellion. And I thought, bring the teacher, and say to the teachers, you have a choice. We can either remove your aides and hire another teacher, and everyone will have small class sizes or no aides, or you can keep your aides and have larger classes. Give the teachers a choice where they can have one. So often I think administrators may remove any choice when really they could give a choice. It could be a free choice. It doesn't cost them anything to give that choice, and really it helps build some buy-in. So they've got to have some understanding of why the decisions are made, and acknowledge trade-offs. If you're going to make someone make a sacrifice, whether it's talking to the football coach because you change the school calendar and recognize it, don't just make changes when other people have to sacrifice things and not acknowledge that sacrifice. Because frequently, all someone wants is that acknowledgement of the sacrifice. But if you just roll over and say you're going to do it and you don't acknowledge it, now you've got a whole other animal on your hands. Because now someone feels disrespected. Whereas if you'd respected them and brought them in, and again, going on the conversations with Mary Ronan in Cincinnati, she said, I pushed my union, but they were always the first call I made. Anytime I made a difficult decision, I called my union leader, I looked her in the eye, and we sat down and had a conversation. I was incredibly respectful because I recognized the important role she played. So she didn't agree with her, she had tough conversations, but she respected the union, which is a very important piece of respecting the people who are being required to make changes. And then continually assess change. Because sometimes you take risks and things don't work out, so you need to be assessing them and stopping them if they don't work. Okay, so effective rapid improvement leaders put the puzzle together so that students can succeed. It's kind of my wrap up. So we've got about 15 minutes left. In your binders is an exercise that I would like you all to use with your districts when you're working with them. I don't know what page it is on.
56.
Page 56, thank you, Lisa. So what you have here is, I've talked about the rapid improvement indicators. Page 56 is a list of all the rapid improvement indicators, okay? They're slightly different language, but you'll see the themes that I've shared with you all. Now, skip over page 57 and 58 because that's a cheat sheet. Don't anyone look at it. So 59 is the actual activity. And so what I developed was, the next page is a case study that I want to give you 15 minutes to read. And it's a case study of a turnaround principle. And so what this activity is that you would have your district folks together, you would allocate time, you will have introduced the different leader actions, you'll share the case study with them, and you'll ask them to fill out this sheet on page 59. And what you want them to do is to go down each of the leader indicators, the rapid improvement indicators, and then ask them to write an example of how the leader in the case study took that action. And then the third column is where they show what the impact is. Why did they take that action? What was the problem they were trying to solve? And what this is to tease through or walk them through an example. Because I've kind of talked in theory and given you examples, but this exercise is a live example. It's trying to capture Roger in paper at school level of someone who's actually made the changes in the district. Now, the case study I've included is a case study that was done by the Regional Ed Lab Northwest Education. Is it called Northwest?
It's education.
Education Northwest, thank you. We've put it in here, but the magazine this came from, there are actually example 5 cases in that magazine. It's totally free, you can download it, you can make copies of it, share it with the folks in your district completely free. I've also, in the slide presentation, given a couple examples of other case studies that if you really wanted to do this more in-depth, you could get additional case studies. Some of them require copyright permission, some of them don't, and to also do this lesson. But I found this to be a very effective tool with principals and district staff to get them to think about what these actions are. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give you all 10 minutes to read the case study about Grove School District Superintendent. No, it's about the principal, Forest Grove. So it's Forest Grove is the right, and the high school is also Forest Grove High School, right? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So the case study starts on page 60 and it goes for I think 3 or 4 pages. 15 minutes to read it, and then we'll have about a 5-minute discussion. Is that for?
Yes, but we're going to have a break.
Right now?
If we have snack break out in the hall,